Hello, you are welcome to the channel. So in the previous video, we talked about how to answer questions on comprehension passages. We focused on mood and tones in comprehension passages. We stopped when we were treating the tone of fear. Okay, quickly, in this video, we are going to start with analytical tone. Yes, analytical tone. In a passage, a tone is analytical if it explains or breaks down concepts. Analytical is from the word analyze. It means to explain, to break down, or to resolve a concept or problem. So when a passage tells you how to do something, the process of doing something, it is analytical. Let's look at this passage, UME 1988. After you must have listened creatively to what you have been told, then you can respond if the need arises. It is quite proper that you respond because the process of response enhances the art of communication. But your response ought to be only a necessary response, a response that will improve your understanding. This response should involve your monitoring some of those things you have been told, but which you do not understand, or politely questioning the rationality of some of the speaker's argument. That your response must be constructive, must enhance the communicative worth. It should not be an unnecessary argument or an opportunity for you to express dissatisfaction or disaffection. The ability to listen properly aids communication and understanding. The question on the passage says, the tone of the passage is A. Sermonizing, B. Pleading, C. Analytical, D. Argumentative. Now, from the pointers we have in the passage, there is one thing that is clear. The passage explains the process of responding, the process of listening and responding creatively, breaking down how and why to respond. We can see that in the passage. Look, then you can respond if the need arises. Underline that. It's telling you what to do, how to do it, but your response ought to be only a necessary response. A necessary response that will improve your understanding. All of this shows that the passage does not lean towards sermonizing or pleading. In fact, the writer is not arguing, then it could be analytical. Also, the passage discusses what kind of response is proper, focusing on improving understanding and monitoring on clear points. It tells us how to listen and how to respond. And I told you that whenever a passage tells you how to do something, how to solve a problem, the process of doing one thing or the other, that passage is analytical. The correct option is option C, analytical. The next is satirical tone. A satirical tone identifies the vices in the society by using humor, irony, and exaggeration to ridicule, criticize, and correct the vices. It is from the word satire in literature. Let's look at this passage, UME 1987. From evidences of these obituaries and in memorial, every dead Nigerian must have been something of a saint while alive. This would explain why the death of most Nigerians is attributed to the evil machinations of the wicked. Only very few people in our country die natural death. And even when they do, the obituaries, etc., always give the impression that such deaths constitute the saddest loss to befall the deceased family. And that is why writers of these obituaries and their allied advertisements are experts on mortuary stylistics. This mortuary stylistics, the study of the art of eulogizing the dead and making their loss sound so heartbreaking, is one of the commodities we can export to other countries. Okay, let's see the question. The tone of this passage is A. Angry, B. Satirical, C. Non-committal, D. Pleasant. Let's look at the passage. The passage uses irony, exaggeration, and a little bit of humor to comment on Nigerian obituaries and cultural practices. This characterizes a satirical tone. The writer appears to poke fun at the lavish praise in obituaries and the tendency to attribute death to nefarious causes, doing so in a witty rather than angry or in a straightforward manner. To justify our answer, we have to look at the definition of satirical tone. A satirical tone identifies the vices in the society by using humor, irony, and exaggeration to ridicule, to criticize, or to correct the vices. Is there any vice in this passage? Yes. The vice of lavishing praises to the death. The vice of believing that all deaths are caused by spiritual or from the devil or from the enemies. So these are the vices identified in the poem. And of course, the writer uses, some humor, exaggeration, which is called hyperbole in literature. Look at this particular one. Every dead Nigerian must have been something of a saint while alive. This emphasizes the belief that dead people are regarded as saints. Even the evil they did while they were alive will never be spoken of. They were not that respected when they were alive. The moment they become dead, they automatically become saints. So that is humor. This suggests an ironic exaggeration, and that's an example of a satire. Another one, the way they comment on obituaries. From the evidences of these obituaries, in memorial, every dead Nigerian must have been something of a saint while alive. Then another one is the mocking of the mortuary stylistics. The calling of the time mortuary stylistics with the phrase, the study in the art of eulogizing the dead and making their loss sound so heartbreaking. All these have humorous and a critical edge. Also, look at this particular expression. Only very few people in our country die natural death. And even when they do, the obituaries, etc., always gives the impression that such deaths constitute the saddest loss to befall the deceased family. This is overly exaggerated. So all these are pointing towards satirical. Another one is a playful suggestion of exporting what we see as a vice, something that we describe as an ill, something that is not good, that is not encouraging. But then at the last part of the passage, is ironically suggesting that we could export that as a commodity to other countries instead of exporting something that are of economic importance. The writer is suggesting that we should export how to eulogize the dead. So you can see the irony, you can see the playful, the absurdity in that suggestion. This mortuary stylistics is one of the commodities we can export to other countries. So all of this jab, this joke, this humor is pointing towards what? Satirical. Of course, the writer is not angry. The writer, we cannot say that the tone is non-committal because the writer actually commits to a particular point. And the point that he commits towards is that what we do in Nigeria, the way we eulogize the dead, the way we over-exaggerate the dead while they are dead, the way we paint the picture of the dead is not appropriate enough. That is the point the writer is committing towards. So we cannot choose non-committal. And of course, pleasant is out of it. The only correct option is satirical. Let's take a look at this passage. As I wander through streets lined with churches, I can't help but marvel at the shared devotion of the people who flock there daily, praying for things that really ought to be the government's responsibility or tasks they could easily tackle themselves. It's rather amusing, really, to see graduates huddled in pews on weekdays, fervently praying to God for jobs. Could they not have directed the same energy to seeking for employment? And then, there are those with no pressing concerns at all, earnestly imploring divine blessings as if they expect a heavenly handout. It's really a curious spectacle. This faith in supernatural intervention, where personal initiative seems to have taken a back seat to fervent prayer. Now to the question on the passage. The tone of the writer could be best described as A. melancholic, B. pathetic, C. indifferent, D. satirical, E. nostalgic. Now I'm going to give you few seconds to read through the passage again on your own. You may pause the video so that you will have enough time to go through the passage and select your own correct option before I come back to choose the correct option and justify why that option is correct. Okay, let's continue. From what we have in the passage ridiculed those who rely on prayer for things that they could do by themselves. Someone looking for a job who prefers to go and pray for a job rather than go out and seek employment. Those who seek blessing, whereas they are not doing anything that could bring them money. These are the people that the writer is trying to ridicule. Let's see some evidences from the passage. The writer uses irony, rhetorical questions, and subtle ridicule, and this suggests satirical tone, criticizing people for relying too much on prayers for things that they could do by themselves. The writer, look at this comment. It is rather amusing to see graduates praying for a job. This implies irony, a kind of subtle ridicule. Because they are educated, they're supposed to know better. Also, the rhetorical question, could they not have directed the same energy to seeking for employment? This is a clear way to criticize the behavior of the people, and the tone is even very sarcastic. Look at this. Faith in supernatural intervention, where personal initiative seems to have taken a back seat to fervent prayer. This comments on the perceived imbalance between prayer and action, and the tone is very critical, but in a witty and a satirical way. Also, the writer's tone is, although it's observational, but with a little bit of mockery. Look at this expression, as if they expect a heavenly handout, as if they are expecting something like some sort of manna from heaven. This implies that the writer finds the behavior very absurd, very meaningless. So what is the tone of the writer? Is it melancholic? Is it pathetic, indifferent, satirical, or nostalgic? Of course, it is satirical. Do you know that sarcasm, just like irony, can be one of the tools used in a satire, in a passage that has satirical tone? This takes us to the next tone, which is going to be the last for this video, and that is sarcastic tone. Sarcastic tone. A passage is sarcastic when the writer praises someone in order to ridicule or mock the person. It is from sarcasm in literature, which means an insincere praise. It's a form of irony in which a person is mocked or ridiculed by praising him. It is different from satirical tone. In satirical tone, a writer uses irony, exaggeration, and humor to ridicule or correct the vices in the society. While in sarcastic tone, the writer mocks a person or something by ironically praising that person. Let's look at this passage. I want you to behold the great titan of this continent, where the population flourishes like weeds in a neglected garden. Its soldiers, truly valiant, charge forth with the bravery of lions, yet somehow struggle against the nuisance of terrorism and banditry. What a marvel! The continent's most viable economy, yet it cannot quite manage the simple art of producing a humble toothpick or a lamp. Wealthy politicians glide through the streets in their luxurious convoys, while the populace nibbles on dreams of prosperity. Isn't it just splendid how the rich thrive amid such charming adversity? Now to the question, what is the tone of this passage? Analytical, abusive, political, sarcastic? Let's go to the passage and identify some evidences, some pointers to justify whatever option we are going to pick. Let's look at these words, this group of words. Great titan of this continent. That expression shows praise, shows that the writer is praising. Are you with me? is praising the country that is referring to in the passage. And remember, we said a tone is sarcastic when the writer praises someone in order to ridicule or mock the person. Okay, let's see some other words. Look at this. The soldiers are called valiant. The word brave is also used for them. Yet, they struggle against banditry and terrorism. You can see, first of all, the writer praises them by calling them valiant and brave. Yet, he mocks them again and ridicules them by letting us know that they struggle against banditry and terrorism. All these are sarcastic in nature. Look at this statement. What a marvel. Look at that expression. This statement is clearly sarcastic, as the inability to produce basic goods like toothpicks or lamps is not something to be admired. Meanwhile, the writer first praised the economy, the best economy in Africa, yet it cannot produce toothpicks and lamps. You can see the sarcasm, the sarcastic tone. The image of the politicians gliding through the street in luxury convoys while the people struggle. This is a clear way to criticize the worth of the politicians. While this passage looks like a satire, especially in the part where the writer mentioned the politicians, the passage is more sarcastic than satirical. Satire tries to correct the evils in the society by mocking those evils. But then, sarcasm mocks a person, mocks a thing by praising it. You can see that there are a lot of praise words in this passage, yet the writer is mocking. That shows that it is the sarcastic. And of course, if you look at the options, there is no satirical. The correct option is option D, sarcastic. So we are going to drop the curtain here as far as this video is concerned. In our next video, we are going to be looking at different statements and how JAMB questions are set around statements in comprehension passages. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and keep it there with me. Thank you for being here. See you another time. Bye-bye.